Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Chris Mueller in a matter of moments. And there he is right there, appeared from the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and you can give us a call, 412-575-2600. Well, you heard part of Ben Cherington's interview just a little bit ago, a lot to unravel. A couple things he said, they've seen signs of progress. I don't believe that. The forecast has changed. What was their forecast originally? I heard, about 4 years ago that they were aiming at 2025 to be the year that they might break out and get back into the playoff scene again. And then Jason Mackey said on this show, maybe last week or the week before, that they forecasted 80 wins this year. That's not good to forecast that. So if it's changed, what is their forecast now? 42 games? Because that's what they're on pace to win, 42 right now. I don't understand how this guy is still a general manager right now.
Well, I had heard something similar to what Jason heard, which was that their internal projections based on the roster they had for this season were something in the neighborhood of like 76 to 80 wins. And that's just so, man, Rich, I just struggle to come up with a word other than pathetic. If this is the year you're supposed to contend and you build a roster where your internal projections show 76 to 80 wins is what it should produce, and part of that roster is Paul Skenes, you've really built a hideous roster. And it goes back to something Neil Huntington would occasionally, I think, kind of allude to. And granted, his team's won 94, 88, 98 in 3 straight years, so he kind of gets a pass. But I think way too many teams like the Pirates in smaller markets try to build like an 82 to 84 win team and hope that they exceed that top-end projection by a couple of games and then figure, okay, that'll get us into the playoffs. And then, as we all know in baseball, given how long the regular season is, the playoffs really are a small sample size crapshoot, and they just take their chances if they get 80, go 87 and 75. To build a team that you think on paper might win 78 games and you hope they outperform that by 5 or 6 or 7, I just think that's kind of pathetic. Again, I'll go back to the word I used.
He said they believe that they can win. Okay, yeah. I kind of believed it.
I mean, I believe I'm going to grow hair, okay? I believe I'm going to grow hair. I believe I'm going to shoot 68 someday on the golf course and not just for 9 holes. You can believe something all you want. When the empirical evidence suggests that that's not happening, you might want to start trying something other than believing.
Yeah, you can want something too, and the same thing. That leads us to our Xfinity live poll question of the night. You can scan that QR code right in the right-hand corner of the screen. Will Ben Cherington be the Pirates general manager by the MLB draft? I would think so. I know I was listening to your show yesterday. I think Mackey was on there saying that maybe that isn't the case.
It's today. He was on today. He thinks it's not a guarantee. Yeah, he said not a guarantee that he's here at the trade deadline. So Jason's pretty plugged in over there. People talk to him over there. I don't know if he's hearing it from people. I don't know if he's making a piece of informed speculation, educated guess, but Jason's somebody who's been around that team a lot, and for him to say that he thinks that Ben Cherington might not last, that tells me 2 things. One, he's on much more tenuous ground than we thought maybe after he got to fire Shelton and got put on the press release. And 2, this is the thing I think is really the case, Rich. I'm willing to bet that if he is gone, it's because they go into another major tailspin and are truly wretched. Like, I'm talking, 35 games under 500 at the All-Star break, 40 games under 500, something like that. I think that could get Ben Cherington fired. And conversely, if they somehow rally, and I don't want to say to respectability, but to just be like a merely bad 90-loss team on that pace, then I think he'd probably keep his job. Shouldn't, honestly, but he would.
Honestly, and what's the worst that can happen? You and I could go into draft day and try and maybe pick a better draft than he can. Maybe not in the later rounds, but he's missed on top-end draft picks, and you can't do that. I mean, yeah, he got Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes fell into his lap, but he's missed on Henry Davis. And I get that Henry Davis was a top 10 guy, right? And they picked him just because of they could draft other guys and money. It's always about money, But I don't know. It's fine. Just let him go. What's the worst that can happen? Have someone in the organization draft.
Well, Joe Delicari was their scouting director, and I bet still has a hand in it. And so it's really the scouting director's draft. And in the Davis case, I'll be fair to them and say it's not like they were taking a Tony Sanchez-style pick where technically you could spend whatever you wanted on the draft, and they tried to divvy it up. I mean, every team's got a cap of what they can spend, and what they were trying to do was just reconfigure or reallocate that cap in a different way. And it's to their discredit that they took a guy who appears to be still very much in over his head as a Major League Baseball player. That's their development that did a bad job. I technically have to come clean here. I would have done a worse job than him last year. I would have picked Dylan Cruz, and that would have been a very bad idea. But yeah, I mean, their drafts have been pretty terrible uniformly with very few exceptions. And
Henry Davis was right. He was supposed to be the best hitter in the draft. He was in college, almost MLB ready. Same with Nick Gonzalez.
Yeah, safest, reliable college bat. I mean, Gonzalez, I think there were reasons to have misgivings about his bat translating to the major leagues because he played at New Mexico State?
Yeah.
He played at a place where he was at altitude, and so you could reasonably assume that the ball was flying there and that maybe some of his offensive numbers were inflated. They've just made bad picks, and I'll say this, they're bad at talent evaluation when it comes to hitters. But it can't just be that. I'm sure they're taking talented players here and that their approach to developing them is helping ruin these guys too. I mean, I can't just say, oh, you're picking the wrong players over and over and over. I think they develop them really poorly.
Yeah, I'll give him credit. I mean, he's developed some pitchers. A couple of them are hurt right now, but they do have starting pitching. So they got at least a part of the equation right. It's just they're not even close to developing hitters. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes with phone calls. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh, joined by Chris Mueller tonight. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night. This is from CBS Sports College Football, projected 2025 CFP bracket. They've made a few changes here. One major change, straight seeding. Do you like it better, Mueller? Do you like? I do because a team like Notre Dame could not that I like Notre Dame, I'm just using them as an example. They could never have gotten a bye because they're not in a conference. Now they can. They take the best teams and just seed straight from whatever it is, their rankings or however they do it. So potentially now you might see two conference, SEC teams or Big Ten teams be in the top four.
I just think it's more sensible as far as approaches go. It might not have worked so well for Penn State last year because they would have, I think, run into Notre Dame in the first round, and that did not end well when they actually played them. But I just think this is a smarter way to do it. I think it leaves some of the – now, some people are going to say, well, it deprioritizes conferences. But, I mean, at this point in college football, how much do we care about who wins a given conference? Seriously. I mean, didn't Ohio State lose to Michigan last year? Are they really crying in their beer about the fact that they lost that game? Actually, that's a bad example. Some Ohio State fans probably still want Ryan Day fired.
But Ohio State lost two games, ended up winning the national championship. I think Penn State would have got a bye last year.
They would have, and they would have, I think, run into Notre Dame in the first round, and then they might have ended up losing anyway, or the first time they played, and then they might have lost anyway. But my point here is it de-emphasizes college, or conferences, and winning your conference. If you lose a game, but you're in a stacked conference and that's the only game you lose, but it keeps you out of the conference title game, you still could get one of the top four seeds and get a bye. I just think that's better. I just think it's more representative of what it should be, right? Like, I think it's great that you can have group of 5 teams and non-Power 5 schools get in there, obviously, and participate, but this is a more representative way to determine a champion. In theory, it leads to more, equitable or better matchups all the way around, and that's the way I think it should be.
Yeah, I'm glad the NFL didn't move to that. I think the Lions put it on for discussion and they took it away, but they didn't vote on it. And they're going to leave it the same, division winners, and then the wild card teams.
But what say you about the tush push, Rich? I mean, that tush and the push and everything else.
I'm fine with leaving it in the game. It's boring. I don't know. I don't really want to see a lot of teams doing it all the time, but whatever.
Well, the only one that's really good at it is the Eagles. I think the Steelers voting against it is kind of funny because they're supposed to be all about toughness and we're the black and gold, we're the steel curtain, we're more physical. Like one of the most physical plays in the sport, and they're like, no, we don't like that actually. Let's do something else.
I mean, if your quarterback can't do it, can't they find someone that can do it? Someone that's big, that's strong, that can just handle the ball and play quarterback at some point in their life?
I know people have said that. I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't think the guy is like truly a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think he's the perfect fit on the perfect team in the perfect situation. But like Jalen Hurts is kind of catching strays here when people are kind of suggesting, oh, teach Darnell Washington to take snaps and then you'll be unstoppable. Like Jalen Hurts can squat like a small car, I bet, and he's got great instincts with the football as to where to go and then get the leg drive going. I actually think he's getting sort of disrespected in all of this. Like his integral role in making that play as unstoppable as it is for the Eagles, I think, is getting the short shrift here.
All right, let's go out to JB in Shadyside. How you doing, JB?
Hey. Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing? All right.
Good.
2 things. When I listen to Cherington talk, how nonchalant he is about everything, it almost seems like he's been told, like, it's okay to just be pretty bad. The way he acts. I mean, it's just pretty inexcusable.
I mean,
the thing is,
go ahead.
Can I say something about the Steelers, too? Why do they keep drafting injured players in the first round? You'd think after you do it once, you might learn not to do it. But this defensive lineman they took, Harmon, I know he has a bad shoulder. I mean, I don't understand that. I think it's bad business.
Well, yeah, you know, he's had clearance. I think we asked that question. Someone did. I know I didn't ask it, but someone did that on the South Side, and they weren't worried about all his evaluations came back positive. So Fautano, he's right, was injured last year. But talking a little bit about Cherington, I want a guy up there with passion. You know, that feels it. That feels like they're a part of the team. That they're riding the wave of winning and losing. And he's just so monotone, and it's just hard to get into what he says. And plus, there's just so much rhetoric going on that I don't believe anything he says.
I will say you can have your passionate GM who spits fire. How about a competent one? You know, Neil Huntington was not always the most exciting public speaker. He was not going to give any famous orator from history a run for their money, right? He wasn't going to get up to the podium and win the press conference. But Neil would occasionally trade barbs if he felt like he was being unfairly impugned. And he also, for a stretch there, was just a really darn good GM. I would just take a competent GM to a good GM. And Ben Cherington, Rich, is neither of those. This guy is hurtling towards yet another season where he finishes in last place. I don't know if anybody has made more of a career out of being connected to Theo Epstein and winning 1 World Series, hey, can't take it away from him, than this guy. I mean, literally, his resume is otherwise non-existent. That's like if I somehow made the NBA off of making 9 straight threes at an intramural game at Penn State. Honestly. Yeah. Like that would be the equivalent here, is I've been living forever off 9 straight threes.
And he was handed that team, right? I mean, any team that he put together.
He made some good moves. He made some good moves. He definitely did.
But it was the Red Sox.
I've gone back and looked.
They have a ton of money.
But he made some like shrewd and kind of clever, not clever, but he made some under the radar free agent moves for that team that did win it all, that really, you know, goosed them. And I want to say they went worst to first when they won that World Series. So he turned around a team that had a bad year prior and won it. It's just there's literally nothing else on the resume here that should make anybody feel like Ben Cherington's the right guy for the job. I think when they hired him, it's, ooh, look at this name. He was on the Epstein tree, and he learned from the best. He learned from Theo, and he was a Red Sox guy. Oh, wow, big name. No, he stinks. He stinks.
Let's go out to Matt and Butler. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, guys.
Hey,
guys. Good evening. Hey, Richie, you just said that guy said nothing but rhetoric. It was garbage.
Yeah.
It meant absolutely nothing.
He does it all the time. He talks in circles. You know, I mean,
if you could bottle his speeches and then turn them into like capsule form, you'd give Tylenol PM a run for its money.
I remember even the last one.
I mean, it just puts you right to sleep.
If you could squint, you could see. It's not hard. What did he say? It's not hard to squint and see a good team. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a good team here. And they're going to break the all-time record. If they can't score one more run in one inning, they're going to break the all-time record for most consecutive games, only scoring 4 less runs.
I know. Okay, like this, the squint and you can see a good team. I think paraphrasing it more correctly, because I do want to at least try to be fair if I'm going to bash and bury the guy. I think he said you can squint and see a team that should perform better than it has. All right, that's like a safer statement. because it's hard to be worse than they were, except they really haven't proven that statement right. I just, to sum up, and I think a lot of the callers have kind of intimated this or have hinted at this, there's just a sense of like superiority that oozes out of him when he talks. He's not going to give you this big fiery speech. Every time he's going to admit that something's gone wrong, it's almost like he can't believe someone would have the audacity to point out that he's done a bad job. I don't think Pirates fans, among other things, like being talked down to by somebody that's done as bad of a job as Cherington has done as general manager. But he absolutely comes off with at least a slightly condescending tone when he's talking about some of these things.
He did say he's not going to trade Paul Skenes, so that's good, I guess, right? Let's go out to Kirk and Manor. How you doing, Kirk?
Hey, how are you guys tonight?
Good.
Hey, I'm just picking your brain real quick. They should trade Paul Skenes. They shouldn't hold him captive here in a place where they're never going to even attempt to win, and they could set their schedule ahead to 2030.
Yeah, I'm not looking at holding someone captive. Like, I want him around. That's their only chance of winning. I don't want to kick the can down the road again because that's all anyone talks about now. I think everyone is just like kind of like duped into thinking like, hey, we're going to be good in 5 years. Let's trade this guy for 5 more prospects that we don't know anything about.
The fact that trading Paul Skenes is on the docket as even a quasi-reasonable thing that he has to shoot down 33 starts into Paul Skenes' career is the single most damning indictment of Bob Nutting and Ben Cherington since Cherington took over.
No doubt about that. All right, we got to take a break. Don't forget about the live poll question. Just scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner. We'll be back in a couple minutes.